Welcome to the Private AI Lab, the podcast where we experiment, explore, and debate the future of AI behind the firewall. I'm your host, Johan, and every month I have a guest in the lab to break down real-world use cases, challenges, and innovations shaping private AI. In this episode, Tasha Drew from Broadcom joins me to talk about VMware's private AI services and how it kind of ties into VCF or VMware Cloud Foundation as a platform. Enjoy the episode. So, Tasha, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. We met up last year at Explore in the US, and after one of your sessions, I submitted or I registered for your Meet the Experts, and I was lucky enough to have like 30 minutes of your time and have a one-to-one, and we talked all things AI. So I was really inspired by that talk. Hence the reason why I reached out if you would love to be a guest on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Yeah, I really remember that connection at the Explorer conference last week as well, last year as well, because I was just so entertained by the robot dog and everything you were sharing with me about your plans. And so, love everything you're doing in the private AI space. And I've really enjoyed keeping up with your adventures since then.
Awesome. Well, good to know. So, Tasha, again, welcome to the show. So for people who don't know who you are, what you do at Broadcom, so yeah, could you please give us some insights?
Yeah, absolutely. I lead the product engineering organization for AI in the VMware Cloud Foundation division of Broadcom. So our group is responsible for building out platform capabilities to help our customers run AI and accelerated compute workloads on the VCF platform.
Good. Well, and what that all means is definitely something that we're going to dive into.
Yes.
But, and this is part of the show, experiment number one, which I call the Icebreaker. I'd love to know something about you that, I don't know, maybe it's new to our audience. So I have a question, and that's the following one. What's the one AI term you wish people would stop using incorrectly?
Yeah. So this week, I think I probably have a different opinion each week. It's training. I find a lot of folks use training really incorrectly. Most folks are using foundational models or frontier models. They're not training them, but a lot of times when they try to talk about how they want to use a model, they describe training, and that's not actually what they mean. They may have a fine-tuning use case. They may be using it as a RAG app, but so today I would like for everyone to understand that training is a foundationally different experience than using or fine-tuning. Yes.
And also requires a completely different infrastructure and beasts of GPUs and to actually do it, to pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah, and just there's such a huge gap in folks understanding. I think because for so long folks were like, well, I'm going to train a model to do this thing for me. And now it's like, no, there's amazing models off the shelf that you can use. And in fact, a lot of the folks I talk to, I live in San Francisco and I go to a lot of meetups with folks working at cutting edge startups. And many of them have shared with me that even the open source models are moving so fast that even AI focused startups have stopped trying to train their own models, and because they find that within 6 months the open source open weight models easily outperform what they had spent millions of dollars trying to train and add themselves. So instead folks are really looking at, let's use the incredible value that is in this ecosystem, and focus our unique efforts on something that really moves the needle for us.
So, and this is probably a personal question, but what's your favorite model, currently open source model to use?
Yeah. Well, my team has been really using the GPT OSS 120B extensively, and we've really been impressed by that one. It's also now that model context protocol and tools are being widely adopted, and we're really working extensively in that space within VCF. That model is one of the few models that's been trained in tool usage. So one of the things that we actually have run into recently with some folks who were trying to test and use MCP and asking my team for support was that they had selected a model that was a really good model, but had not been retrained in tool usage. So I think that's something that folks are surprised by because we've been talking about MCP in this space for a year now, but MCP and A2A are relatively new tool usage protocols. And so all models had to be retrained in tool usage to be good at it. And so GPT OSS is one of the models that has been trained in tool usage. Yeah.
Oh, definitely good to know. And for the listeners, again, if you if you want to know more about MCP, definitely go back to by heart episode 5, where we did a complete deep dive on MCP and with Maxime Colomes. And definitely one of the episodes I really enjoyed and learned a ton about MCP. Another link to another episode is the one I recorded with Frank Denneman, episode 4. Yeah, about basically the entire, I would say, the infrastructure that forms the base layer for the topic we're going to talk about today. In the introduction, you already mentioned VCF. That it's the thing that you do is part of the VCF division, and one of the reasons why I invited you over is because and not being a VMware fanboy here, but what I really like about the VCF stack is that a couple of years ago, I think 2.5 years ago, Hock Tan, the CEO of Broadcom, presented VCF being the AWS of private clouds, if you will. And what I find really incredible is that you guys are now actually executing on that strategy by adding kind of native services in the VCF stack, and private AI services being one of that.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it. So first of all, what is, from your point of view, the private AI services solution?
Yeah.
And how is it part of VCF?
Yeah, absolutely. So the challenge that I was presented with when we were acquired by Broadcom was coming into VCF division, the newly created, I like to call it private cloud in a box, right? So prior to the acquisition, if a customer wanted to build a private cloud with VMware, they had to go to a large number of different internal business units to get all of the elements of that private cloud, right? So we have automation for developers, we have operations, we have virtualized network, virtualized storage, we have data services manager, we have compute and virtualized compute. And so post-acquisition, we brought all of those together into one product. Everyone reports up to one general manager. And I was thrilled because I have always been on the cloud native and bleeding edge technology side of VMware. And so having everything under one leader, private cloud in a box, everything I need to run, manage, build, scale my private cloud, make it all work seamlessly, right? Like make it easy to purchase and use, like it's a dream. And so I came in and my mandate was help us create a platform so that customers can easily run, build, manage, scale AI workloads and accelerated compute-based workloads. And so I looked at all of the amazing tools and capabilities we now have in the private cloud offering and said, okay, so, I have the VCF Kubernetes service, I have a native pod service, I have all of these cloud native fundamentals, we have We have different ways to structure and share workloads with teams. We have integrated OCI. So let's use all of those in a really nice end-to-end fashion. But my team's goal is go from I have no deployed AI workloads to I have a running agentic workload. And our goal is a cup of coffee. I'm sure I'm going to get feedback that it takes at least more than it takes a little more than one cup of coffee. But if the coffee shop's around the corner, maybe we're getting there. So, like just make it end to end really nice and integrated. And so we looked at what our customers were trying to do. And with our private AI story, a lot of what folks are trying to do now is take private, take sensitive data, take data that can't be relocated out of the private cloud. Maybe it's regulated. Maybe you're just generating so much of it at an edge location like a large mine that you can't, move it anywhere. And let's make it so that you can easily get value out of that from an AI perspective. So we wanted to go from zero to deployed RAG app because we see a lot of folks building these enterprise RAG apps, retrieval augmented generation, which is really where you take a model, you need to prepare your data. You can say, hey, model, only answer the questions from my specific data. And now suddenly you're really unlocking the incredible value of all of those documents enterprises are constantly creating and being able to search those and have a much stronger extraction of the value for the end user, right? So it's kind of, I can come in and my finance team can create a RAG app and they can ask very specific questions about deals and everything that's going on. And it needs to be private to them because only the finance team can see that data. And then, kind of rinse and repeat for sales team, HR team, development team. So we wanted to really enable people to do that very easily in the private cloud. So taking a step back from that, what do folks need to be able to do? Number one, I need to be able to safely import, validate the provenance and security of, and then share open weight, open source models for the cases where I want to use those. So we built a model gallery that has an entire secure workflow that you can follow that's part of the product to bring in those best of breed, open weight, open source models. Security scan them, make sure that you understand the provenance, but also test the behavior of the model itself to make sure it hasn't been subject to any supply chain attacks like model weight changes or training data poisoning. And you can start to really understand what are the requirements of my organization for model behavior and then create that as a framework and constantly test your models to make sure that they're acting in accordance with those standards. Once you're happy with that, we repackage that model as an OCI artifact with associated metadata, and then you can share that using your standard OCI artifact repositories, so Artifactory, Harbor, whatever it is that you use. Now that sounds simple, but one of the business challenges we identified early on is that there was no packaging standard for models. So folks kind of figuring out how to download them, how to unpack them, how to use them, how to deploy them, that actually is a really annoying challenge. And at the same time that we settled on OCI because we wanted an open standard that could really scale to your existing business practices, the CNCF also started realizing that this was a great place for them to dig into. And so we've seen great collaboration with the upstream community just in terms of packaging and sharing of models. Those are a lot of words, so I'm just going to pause. Yeah.
No, what it automatically does. Well, so let me share an anecdote. So I've been involved. My very first AI engagement was back in 2017. I think NVIDIA NGC was either in public, in private beta, or it was just before it got launched. And the customer wanted us to build on top of vSphere a platform where researchers could run basically any type of container, but it needed to be obviously GPU accelerated. We needed to kind of create our own custom containers with all frameworks being included. We needed to test everything, and well, long story short, it took probably 8 to 9 weeks before we had a Docker image that could run on top of Kubernetes, accelerated by a GPU. And then still we had just an interactive container. Like they could connect with the CLI using PyCharm or something else, but that was it.
Yeah.
Now we needed to run something on top of that made the kind of the application or the application layer or the IDE consumable. It was one big shitstorm. Whereas what you're now describing could
It's
work
like, whoop.
in the
Yeah.
yeah. I'll get a cup of coffee, and when I'm back, it's
Ready
done.
to go.
It's
Yeah.
amazing where we came from.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and the more that you dig into this into this ecosystem as an infrastructure person, the more you realize how many problems there are to solve, right? And that's exciting, right? Like, because everyone knows AI is taking off, like there's tremendous business value to unlock, like everyone's kind of getting ready. And then if you're a distributed systems person, if you're an infrastructure person, you start looking at it through the lens of somebody who's productized, secured, managed workloads before, and you start to realize there's a lot of missing stairs here, right? And so that's really what we're looking to add to the platform. So, we have model gallery, like be able to import and safely share models with the right folks using your existing RBAC, have a standard packaging format. And then the next step is model runtime and ML API gateway. And so here we realized that at enterprises around the world, GPUs that are needed to accelerate these models are very expensive. They take a long time to procure, which means that teams are buying them and then hiding them from the rest of the organization. So you end up with this weird dichotomy where you have underutilization of an expensive infrastructure asset, right? And so that means you often end up with, say, 6 different teams all running their own copy of Llama 3 under the, darkness of night. And it's like, if y'all could just opt this into a shared platform and have a nice API, standard API in front of that, you can hit it, you can get your Llama 3 all day, but now we suddenly freed up a lot of expensive GPUs that could be either horizontally scaling that workload or running a different model that adds additional business value that folks also want, right? Like all of these kind of core components come together. So the second service we built was the ML API gateway and the model runtime. And so these are Kubernetes-based services. They have all of the integration with the various vGPUs. And we also have added support for CPU inference as well. So on these, now you have your model imported. It's an OCI artifact. You come to a nice UI. You select the model. You select the VM class you want to run the model on. We deploy it. We manage it on your behalf. You don't have to futz around with Kubernetes at all. We've automated all of that for you behind the scenes. And now you're running a model as a service for your organization. Folks, you can easily horizontally scale that, and then you get a better ROI on your infrastructure investment, and you're lowering the total cost of ownership at just sort of having this nice additional layer for model management.
One thing that also amazes me is and it's probably the same people that constantly talk about training are the same people that have no idea that you could just run a single model, since it's read only. Like, you're not putting data into the model, so it's stateless. It makes so much sense to have a single model running there and tie different use cases into it. I mean, like you mentioned, you could have a complete RAG system with RBAC in place, with different secured types of vector databases that you can split privacy sensitive versus non-privacy sensitive information with. But even if you have like external chat bots or whatsoever, they can all tie into the same model. So it doesn't really make sense to spin up the same model all over and over again. Like you mentioned, bad for ROI, bad for TCO.
Yeah, yeah. And so that, services just kind of speaks to the bread and butter of like a VCF use case, right? Like help folks use the hardware investments that they have very, very efficiently. And so, it just made a lot of sense to us to get into that space. So then now that we have our model and it's happily running as a service, and as you pointed out, like the model itself is stateless, so there's no security problems with sharing access to a model as long as you have a secure place to put your data that is secure to only the team that should have access to it. The third service that we decided we really needed to build is a data indexing and retrieval service. And the reason I decided we needed to have this is I spoke to so many customers who understood the value of an enterprise RAG app, right? Like had all of these use cases, all of these different teams who wanted it, but getting the unstructured data, dragging those documents out of their original location, cleaning them up, generating the embeddings, storing them in a vector database, just doing that once was a multi-month project for them. And then the data gets stale, and then you have to do it all over again. And they just needed a nice automated way to A, get the data into the vector database in the first place, and then B, regularly refresh that. So it seemed like a natural place for us to kind of get into sort of the sticky, unpleasant middleware area that I always think there's a lot of value in if you can nail it. And so we built the data indexing and retrieval service. It has data connectors to popular unstructured document repositories, so Google Drive, SharePoint, Confluence, anything with an S3 API. You can connect to there, you can select what documents you want saved for this team, and then create a data source, and then combine data sources into different knowledge bases and give the right team the access to the knowledge base they should have when they're creating their RAG app. And so, yeah, that one was like faster to talk about because I think everyone immediately understands why they would want it, but non-trivial to build. Yeah.
And you mentioned the model, the API gateway. How does that kind of fit into both the model runtime as well as the indexing service?
Yeah, great question. So we have the ML API gateway. This is a gateway that we built so that you can have a standard interaction protocol between your user and the models that you're running. And it's OpenAI API compatible because when we looked at the market, we really saw that the OpenAI API had become the de facto open source standard for most model runtime platforms. And so we wanted to really align with that. One of the big sort of philosophies of investment at Broadcom more generally is open ecosystems and interoperability. And so this is kind of one of those cases where we wanted to be able to say, hey, like if you're running this model in the public cloud, if you're running this on another platform, it's very easy for you to move the model and the application to your private cloud when you have those use cases, and you're not going to have to refactor the app because we have this standard API that the industry's really coalesced around. It also means that your user, it gives you really a nice operational flexibility story because you can update the model, you can horizontally scale it up and down with no end user impact because the user is just interacting with the API that's running as a separate service. And to your earlier question, how does that play for both the runtime and data indexing and retrieval? For data indexing and retrieval, we need to run embedding models. So those embedding models are running behind the API gateway, and then your completion models are also running there.
Right. So, well, you mentioned different types of models, and obviously we need to serve them as well. And I also know that you are a big fan of open source technologies. You are also an advocate for the open source world, right? So, can you kind of guide us a little bit through, for instance, what type of inference server it is that you're using and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So we originally went to market with support for vLLM for completions and Infinity for embeddings. And we made those decisions mostly because, you know, you kind of have to pick one to get started. You
Yeah.
can't support everything immediately. We really loved what we were seeing with the community behind both projects. So I think one of the biggest things, regardless of what technology you're working on, is when you're going to use open source, make sure you're picking a project with excellent governance. Make sure that because you're taking a dependency on it, and you need to make sure that the project and the upstream itself is very well managed. So we saw that for both projects. We saw that they were maintaining a healthy upstream. If we needed to make a PR, like we could pull requests, we could work through that with the team. And we saw that it supported a wide array of different infrastructure types, which we need, right? right? Like we need to have a common runtime across all of the GPUs and CPUs our platform supports. We also kind of love, especially like Jan Stoika out of UC Berkeley is behind the vLLM project. We've had a long relationship with his research labs, both pre and post acquisition. So we had a really good kind of insight into their roadmap and how they think about the internet and infrastructure and these sorts of projects in general. So we went to market with those two. They've been really great workhorses for us. And since then, vLLM has really just continued to take off. It's added support for embeddings now. It's even added very early support for CPU based workloads. So, and we see like a number of large organizations around the industry using vLLM and participating in its upstream. So that project has been really successful. And Infinity has been a great workhorse for us as well. And we're using it everywhere. But now with our next release, which by the time anyone hears this is our current release, we have added support for llama.cpp. And llama.cpp is a really nice upstream project that runs inference and other workloads. But the fun thing about that project is if you build your workload for llama.cpp, it will run on GPU or CPU depending on what you have available. And that's just an extra level of flexibility. We have some customers who have many different deployment scenarios that they need to support. Sometimes they're going to be in a data center with really powerful GPUs. Sometimes they'll be in an edge site with less powerful GPUs. And sometimes they're going to be somewhere where they only have CPUs and they need the same workloads to be able to run across those different paradigms. Also, I know that it's not like the hottest topic right now, but there's a lot of inference CPU workloads in the world, right? And we would love to run all of them on our platform. So we've added that support, and we think it's going to be a really valuable addition. As vLLM's CPU support becomes more production grade, I anticipate we'll add that as well.
So when it comes to running those workloads or those models on a CPU, is it specific types of CPUs that are supported, like the Intel ones with matrix computations, or is basically any CPU suitable to run a model?
Well, it depends what you mean by suitable.
Depends on the time you have, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. How many cups of coffee do you want before your completion returns? Yeah. No, I mean that's something that we've had to work really hard to educate people about. I get a lot of feature requests to me personally to make completions models and LLMs run as well on CPU as GPU. And, I don't usually say this when the person's telling me I need to do that, but if I was able to do that, I would be currently accepting the Nobel Prize in physics, so at the end of the day, right, like it's two different architecture types. And if you have to run an LLM on CPU, we understand that and we want to support you, but it is going to be a significantly degraded UX, right? Like you're going to need to be patient. The cool thing I will say about llama.cpp is it allows caching. So basically, if you have a really good data set, and a data set would be the questions people are going to ask and the perfect answer for that question, you can cache your data set on the CPU so it doesn't have to go to the LM to get an answer if you've already cached the answer. And so that means for smaller data sets or for better bounded problems, you could actually fake really good response time on a CPU using llama.cpp for those better defined question and answer sets. But if it needs to hit the CPU, you're going to be waiting a while for the response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then we hit the mark with serving a model. We already briefly talked about the indexing and retrieval components. Anything to add to that? Did we miss something specific when it comes to that solution?
No, I mean, data indexing and retrieval is pretty straightforward. I think the last one that I would mention is Agent Builder. So our fourth service that we added to the product in VCF 9 is called Agent Builder. It's a higher level service where you can give access to your developers or your end users. In my case, even our field team, our sales team got access, and we're building their own agents using the UI. And basically, your users can come in, they can see what models they have available to them that you're you're running as a service. They can see what knowledge bases have been created that they can leverage to create a RAG app. And coming in this next release, we've added full support for model context protocol as well. So that adds a number of different features where as an administration team, you can select what MCP servers you want to allow and what specific tools you want to expose from that MCP server. So really giving you a good initial governance story around MCP, since unfettered access to random MCP servers scares everybody. But it's very powerful to be able to give a tool to agents and really allows them to extend their ability to interact with your systems or answer questions more accurately. So now Agent Builder also has MCP support. And so it's just a nice higher level UI for your users to be able to create agents that then run in your private cloud. And then they can expose that via API to power agentic workflows in their applications.
So one thing that seems to be kind of the common thread throughout this episode already is speed. And I am too a big supporter of open source technologies, open source projects. I'll be going and speaking at KubeCon in a couple of weeks from now. But still there is a there's a thing about open source. Customers that or companies I work with that went full on open source had or still have a challenge to deploy something with speed. What literally means if I need to build a AI platform, a private AI platform from scratch, greenfield, and I take a look at the CCF landscape with all of the magical projects and the AI landscape on top of that, it'll probably cost me already like 6 months to pick and choose, to build, to design my stack, then I have to deploy it, have to test it, and I think on average it takes a year to 1.5 years to have a stack ready to run anything on with self-service, the whole shebang. Now, you mentioned, building something while it takes just to get a cup of coffee. I mean, that's and obviously it's not the exact same thing. But what I like about the private AI services stack and VCF as a whole is that you already picked and choose many projects, many solutions that fill in all of the blanks. And you already mentioned a couple of solutions being part of, a couple of parts being part of the whole platform. But when it comes, for instance, to security, governance, policy, but also observability and operations, how do you fill in kind of the I would say the gaps, but obviously these topics are important to private AI platform as well. So how are they part of VCF or of private AI? How are these gaps filled in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would say is that there's no cohesive end-to-end project in open source you can just go grab, right? Because if there was, I'd be using it. So we really we had the amazing advantage of already having large number of teams that were deeply embedded in upstream and open source in this space. And so we could also talk to our customers. We could see what was taking off. We could see what wasn't working. But the biggest thing that we really took on when we started delivering these services is we needed to be flexible, and we needed to understand that this ecosystem is moving so fast that anything we take a dependency on today could be completely over in 6 to 9 months. And so we needed to maintain operational flexibility to be able to replace or add integration and compatibility with whatever comes next, right? And I think we've already done a good job of proving that our architectural approaches work there, because MCP came out, we immediately pulled it into the roadmap. We already have it running internally. And we're looking at adding capabilities from other standards like A2A as well, right? But there's already all the thought leadership posts about what's coming next and how people are going to start adapting to everything. So I think really taking a flexible approach architecturally, understanding that this isn't going to be a one and done project because this space is moving so fast. You're going to need to deeply understand your points of integration. And when you take a bet on something, making sure that there was a couple projects that folks were bringing up to me over and over again that would have been really nice extensions to what I've built, and then they get acquired and shut down, right? Like, so it's kind of like you just have to really like be ready for constant change, right? Like the only constant is change in technology in general, but then especially in this space right now, it's jello, right? Like that's kind of been my approach. As far as kind of the deeper enterprise capabilities that you were mentioning, or really things that we have to deliver because we build software for the enterprises and we're expected to have a certain level of security, governance, observability. We've been building all of those things into our various net new pieces of the platform, but we also get to stand on the shoulders of the giants of, WCP, Supervisor, vSphere, all of our different NSX investments, right? And so we have like a lot of things that are just plugged in there for us, and then we're taking advantage of them as an end user. I often pitch myself to internal teams as a canonical example of an end user application because if I need something, I think our customers need it too. And it's been a really healthy collaboration there. More deeply, some specific spaces that we've been investing in are things like adding distributed tracing throughout MCP interactions on our platform. So it can be a black box, right? Like user sends question to model, model does magic, responds with answer, right? And I have no idea what you did. And now I'm giving you tools that could not only maybe check the state of a system, but also could influence or change the state of a system. Suddenly I'm very, very concerned about end-to-end model visibility, right? And so one of the things we've been investing in is distributed tracing so that we can trace the entire interaction between user, model, tool selection, tool invocation, and then have an audit log. And so we think that these are kind of table stakes for enterprises to be able to start using, auditing, and understanding these systems. And then also being able to build guardrails around their behavior because they start to really understand what that behavior is as they make them more and more extensible.
You might be biased, but do you think that private AI services might be the perfect use case to utilize the full potential of VCF?
I do. Yes. Thank you for asking me that amazing question. Yeah, I mean, if you want to see the whole stack of VCF from automation to observability to Kubernetes to networking to storage to compute all just work together and you didn't have to deeply understand the fundamentals of them, it's a really nice sort of higher level experience for you to engage with. And I think it's really telegraphing where we want to go, right? Like we want to make sure that we're providing amazing examples of what the entire stack can do for you and how you can really utilize it to its fullest potential. So yeah, I like to think of us as like the canonical example of a higher level service on VCF.
It's I think this should be the topic that we kind of derive conversations towards when a customer talks about RTO. About the TCO of VCF. I mean, we still have like customers that talk about, well, it's too expensive. Well, you shouldn't talk about money. You should talk about value. And I think this is one of those perfect examples of how it shows value. Again, cup of coffee. This is the title of the show is going to be something with a cup of coffee, at least.
I'm just waiting for all the tweets to be like, how many cups of coffee am I supposed to be drinking? I'm over caffeinated. But goals and reality can sometimes.
Yeah. One thing you also mentioned is that that MCP is on the roadmap, but you're also using it internally. So I also heard a rumor that you are drinking more of your own champagne next to coffee, obviously, and using pieces like the indexing server internally. So is the rumor true?
The rumor is super true. So what we have been doing is we had a number of really awesome opportunities to run private AI services for large internal users, including other divisions of Broadcom, and then just get them all using it. And what we love about those opportunities is we drive all of their feedback straight into the capabilities we ship to our customers. But the other thing that we've been doing is we've been building VCF Intelligent Assist using private AI services. So VCF Intelligent Assist, which is going into tech preview this year, is starting to add agentic AI capabilities to VCF itself to help our customers manage and use VCF to the fullness of its potential. And for that, we've been using model runtime, model gallery, data indexing and retrieval. We've been using agent builder, like all in anger, right? So like every time we like run into a rough edge, we learn something, we put it straight into the product. So I think it's just such a healthy way to develop, right? Like if you're using your own product at scale to deliver all of the capabilities that you want your customers to use it to deliver, that is a really healthy feedback loop for you to kind of double down on. And for data indexing and retrieval in particular, what we wanted to do was build really like the best data set possible and from all of the best sources for VCF documentation, right? Like we all know through the years, VCF documentation has been difficult to find. SEO has been busted just because we have so many versions out there. If you used to try to Google, often you'd find a different version of the document you were looking for, right? And now we've had a couple of doc migrations post-acquisition. A lot of the best documentation is in non-indexed stuff that you can't search for or on individuals' blogs. You have to kind of be part of the community and know what blog to go look at. And so that's just not a great experience. And it's something we really thought that the current LLMs landscape could help us provide a much better answer towards. So we have been scraping our own tech docs, large number of private data sources that we have internally for training purposes, public blogs. Obviously, we got permission first. And then all of these random pages, right? Like just max config, right? Like everyone's like, please include config max, right? Like, so just finding all these different places that you used to kind of have to just know existed, developers.broadcom.com, right? Like just pull it all in, make it part of a data indexing and retrieval service, front it with an agent, and allow people to ask questions of those docs, but now give that to customers too. The other great thing is we can, because my team is the AI team, we are approved, we have a continuous delivery mechanism. So you don't have to wait until the next major or minor release of VCF for us to update the docs that you can now search using an LLM in product. And this means that if there's new information, if there's a new knowledge base article, whatever it is, we can update your documentation. And so if you ask the question that we already know the answer towards, we can surface that to you. The same thing holds for our private AI services platform capabilities. We're able to ship new capabilities to you on a much faster cadence because we just recognized as a business that this ecosystem's running so fast, we need to really ship continuously to stay abreast of those changes.
So, since you are offering this as a service and there's a model runtime tied to it, and like you mentioned, GPT OSS 120B is one of the models that you can leverage from the get-go. One of the biggest challenges that I see the customers, but community as a whole are kind of facing is around hallucination. So, did you kind of what's the secret magic sauce, or can you share the secret sauce behind like how you cope with hallucination for customer scenarios?
Yes. Yeah. So that's a huge concern and it's a risk to any business, right? Like if I'm providing this to a customer, how do I handle with the fact that if the LLM is feeling either spicy today or like my doc search didn't come back with anything conclusive, it might just randomly make something up or spit out information from something it was trained on a long time ago that has like nothing to do with the question I'm asking. So places that we're currently investing is pre and post processing on your workflow. So everyone kind of has LLM plus docs, but we're distributed systems people. We know that we've been able to do things without like above and beyond and around other services since time immemorial. And so what things that you can do is you can have pre-processing. So customer asks a question, you can have a regular non-LLM based service that looks at that question and says either this has nothing to do with what this service is for and kind of kick it back. This is also where you can start to do things like PII identification, like we do not want your social security number, right? Like we're not accepting this, we're not logging it into our system and just kind of kick it back. So there's a pre-processing step where you can try and interact with your user to get a better question out of them that will lead to less problems with your LLM. So that's kind of think about like pre-processing before you send any content to the LLM itself, and then post-processing. And so the use case we have for post-processing, I really like. It's pretty easy to understand. So we right now when we return an answer for you in our VCF Intelligent Assist, we'll give you our answer, and at the end we will give you all of the links for where we got that answer from, so you can go read the source documentation and make sure that you're happy and that you kind of agree with this, right? So it's just kind of a show your homework. We are doing post-processing and out-of-band pieces to make sure that those links are preserved and that they are served correctly. So one of the first feature requests we got was, we like that you're giving us the links, but could you put them in the article, right? Like with the chunk instead of at the end as a list. And what we found is that led to a lot of hallucination. So if we try to, because then you have to do it as part of the LLM interaction. So then the LLM has to add the links, and then the LLM will do things it thinks are helpful, like shortening the URL to broad.com because it's trying to save tokens, right? And then suddenly all your links are broken. So we found that the post-processing step for showing the original location of the links is really important. And so that's one just kind of silly example of taking certain jobs away from the LLM as a post-processing step instead of trying to get the LLM to do everything.
Wow, makes sense. But and this again, this is also part of the private AI services platform.
Yes.
And I think that where we ended kind of the conversation with Frank was around everything can run on vSphere.
Yeah.
Where kind of this conversation completely takes off is, and my mind is honestly blown. I've been playing around with private AI services, so I kind of, I know the platform. I played around with it. We are running one of the dog demos on it as well. But the fact that you guys are, I won't say leaving the infrastructure focus, but this is next level. We're not talking about Kubernetes anymore. We're not talking about VMs anymore. We're talking about a consumption platform that's just part of the private cloud.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to be really clear. We are using Kubernetes, right? We are using pod VMs, but you don't have to care, right? Like that was one of our big things is we didn't want you to have to spend forever configuring your Kubernetes cluster, pre-installing vGPU, passing all these flags in. Like we do that on your behalf because we know what the workload is and we can be really opinionated about that deployment. And so those tools are all open to you for your bespoke workloads, but we can also use them to provide higher value on top of them, and also in our own way dog food VKS ourselves, right? And VKS is great. You can ask me anytime.
Now, okay, so you mentioned I think the word Jello during the the kind of as a metaphor around how how predictable or how rigid all
Firm.
of the
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
the innovation goes, right? So we've 1 year ago MCP was just born, and
Yeah.
now it's donated to the Linux Foundation.
Yeah, Linux Foundation. Yeah.
Like things go fast, and you have to as a director for the product, you are fully responsible for choices you make. And obviously you do that with customers, but I can imagine if you compare this to other business units that kind of have more a less risky roadmap, if you will.
Sustaining, sustaining versus innovation.
Yeah, that's that it's a kind of a different ball game. Now,
Yes.
you made a lot of choices, and now looking back to the last 5 years, for instance, would you have done anything differently, or not, or
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because I kind of wish I could like poll my team, like what should I have done differently? I'm sure they're gonna all be screaming at their at the podcast when you ask this question. But honestly, there've been so many changes, and everything's been moving so fast, just organizationally and from a technology perspective. But I feel really good, about like all of our core investments, right? Like when we picked VLLM was not a core winner, and now a clear winner, and now it clearly is, right? Like when we decided to operationalize on Kubernetes but not take dependency on other complex projects, like that was like a bet, but it's worked out really well for us. We didn't need the overhead and the complexity of some of the other open source platforms. The one thing that I am going to put in here is about this time last year, I was having a very intense conversation with my distinguished engineer, Clemens. Clemens is amazing. And he had built Agent Builder to be declarative, but I really wanted an API first approach. And so he pivoted to have like a really nice API, and he abandoned the declarative approach. And now we're realizing we need like having like a really nice way to have agent templates is important. And so we're going to be investing in that. And so I'm sorry, Clemens, you were right. We needed declarative. And there you go.
have you told him that already, kind of in person?
Oh, he
or
knows.
Is this the first time you'll hear it?
Yeah, I'm sure that he will. No, we've talked about this. He's brought it up like several times. He's like, "You told me."
So, since you have a good feeling of kind of how to predict what's right and what shouldn't be on the roadmap, I'd love to invite you over probably in a year from now to talk about other things as well, what's new in the product or in the solutions. And really interested to hear from you, if you have one prediction about AI in the next 12 months, what will it be?
Man, I think the big question is how tool usage at scale pans out. I think that we are seeing, I think that people are so excited for it right now, but what guardrails are going to be necessary? What security protocols? And then I think, is there going to be more merging between A2A and MCP? Is something else going to emerge? I think that's a big unknown, and I think that's going to be really interesting to observe. The other thing that I think folks are going to start really looking at is when you build an agent. Right now, I think a lot of folks are thinking, I want one agent. Like I want and this is just an example, it doesn't exist. I want a Broadcom agent that can do everything possible for all of Broadcom, every division, right? One Broadcom agent. And what we're actually finding so far is that having agents that are a specialist in a domain works really, really well. And you shouldn't try to have like a massive domain spanning agent because it'll have too many tools and it'll get confused, right? So it's better to kind of focus on having an agent per domain, and then having those agents potentially work together to do different capabilities, right? But I think that I think that this big, I'm going to have one massive agent thing might not pan out, but maybe something comes out where it does. So those are kind of the trends I'm looking at, is just where do we get with tool usage? How do we make it really, really good? And then how do you make an agent run really well? And is it domain spanning or not? And if it's not domain spanning, then how do you get the agents to work together across domains, right? Like, yeah.
Any thoughts on Claudebot?
Not. I think
Don't
I'll
use
pass
it?
on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah. Oh man, I sincerely enjoyed this conversation. So, as part of experiment number 3, the lab report, I kind of want to look back at what we learned. And well, I learned a ton, especially that I'll probably drink more coffee at customers in the upcoming months, and getting platforms ready. No, in all seriousness, I think, like I mentioned before, private AI services is probably the number one use case that gets you the full potential of VMware Cloud Foundation, specifically version 9. And I think what really stands out is that as a company, you're not leaving the private cloud kind of focus, but you're building true cloud native services running in the private cloud on top of that lets you consume such a service as you would like from a hyperscaler.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, private cloud has best of breed services, and you don't have a trade-off. Really, what you want to do is pick private or public based on what your privacy needs are, governance, site location, right? Like, is it edge? And then data locality, data provenance. So yeah, like really start thinking about like the needs of the workload, the needs of the data, the security of the models, versus feeling like there's a huge feature trade-off based on where you're running.
Yeah, so folks, if you listen to this, don't design your rack solution from scratch. Just consume it as a service from a private cloud. You heard it here first.
Absolutely.
So Tasha, thanks so much for being a guest. So if did we miss anything?
No, this covered more than I thought it would. It's great chat.
Good. So if people want to follow you, what should I do?
Yeah, my main social is really just LinkedIn these days. So, Tasha Drew or /TASHY on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Are there any in-person events that people can expect you to be part of anytime soon?
Well, I didn't get on the KubeCon train, which I'm sad about, but I am going to be participating in open source summits this year. I'm actually going to be, I believe, the track lead for the AI and data tracks. So that'll be fun. And I am I've pulled together a submission for KubeCon North America, so hopefully I'm there. But yeah, for the most part, and I think I'm going to be at Snowflake in the Silicon Valley for their upcoming Women in Open Source event. So that'll be fun. But none of those are locked in right now. So yeah, I guess I will
Fingers
definitely.
crossed.
Yeah, I'll post about them when they happen. And until then, this podcast is the best place.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being a guest, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Awesome. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Private AI Lab. Don't forget to subscribe to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and visit Johan.ml for more insights and experiments. Experiment complete. Until the next one, stay curious.
Private AI Lab.